Hello all, welcome to lesson number 5 on the mastering Queen versus Rook Endgame. This lesson it's very important because it's going to be longer for sure because we are going to face different problems more on the human perspective. So this is very hard to in a practical game to master this one. Let's start with the basic position we saw last lesson, the third rank zugzang. So as we saw, we move the queen to place black in a zugzang. The rook can't move and we can take it. And then we saw that we had two practical escapes for the enemy king, the rook king. If it comes to an opposition of our king, we already know this is the engine choice and it's easier to master for sure. People know more this one, the technique to break this one, than the one we are going to see in this lesson. So this was saw already on the previous lesson, lesson number 4. And here we are going to focus on the human escape. The human escape is the path that poses more practical point problems to the queen side, and we should know it from both perspectives because either we need to win against the rook, and so we need to find not very intuitive moves, or we are on the rook side and we want to create the best chances to grab a draw and save alpha point during the game. Also, because these days with short time controls, it's even more important to be practical and not to lose time to find the best moves. So now it's white to move, and the key move is to keep the two squares distance from the enemy king while attacking the rook. Okay, so now it's black to move. Very easily, we can see we have two options. Either we move the king to protect the rook, or we move the rook away. My recommendation move, the human move that I want you to remember, is to play rook a6. So the key is to keep the rook on the third rank, cutting our king, so it's harder for white to find the best moves. Also, if white can't find the best moves, what happens is we go back to the same position on the third rank defense and we force white to repeat again some moves they have done. So, but let's first see what happens if the king moves. Only possibility is to protect the rook, of course, and then we give a check, a diagonal check. So the king needs to move away. If it goes farther away from the rook, we simply take the rook, of course. So there's only basically two options. Let's start by this one, and I think it's easy to find. We have a simple checkmate. And the other option also, it will be easy because we simply can move the queen sideways and we reach a diagonal position that we already saw how to break in lesson number 2 that I recommend you to review it if you don't remember. So king to move, we reach at least a diagonal position that we already know how to break it. So best chance for black is to move the rook. Let's see what happens if the rook stays on the same file. So if it goes here, then we simply approach our king and it will be very easy to understand that we will win the game very fast with a checkmate. Like see, for example, here I don't take the rook, I just give a checkmate. If the rook goes just one square away, the same thing. I am already threatening checkmate again, so black can't escape. If it moves back, then it's very easy to find a fork. Okay, here I find this way the fork, and if it goes here, another fork is coming. Okay, so staying on the same file is not working, and finally another direct fork to grab the rook. So the rook staying on the same file is not possible. Let's see what happens to the other side. So of course these squares are covered directly by our pieces, so the rook can go this side, and then I pin the rook. The only way to protect is to bring the king, but now two pieces and the rook can't move away. We'll grab the rook and win the game. So finally, before the solution that I recommend here, it's very simple. I give another fork and it's over. So when we reach this position, we already know if the king moves to protect the rook, we'll reach a diagonal position, and we use the techniques on lesson number 2 to break it. So the best move for the defense is to move the rook sideways to a6, keeping the rook on the third rank and forcing white to find the best move. So if you want, you can try to pause the video and find the solution. This is the first situation where white needs to find a not very intuitive move, and there are a lot of moves possible. The engines can suggest a lot of moves, but for us humans, there's only one that I consider easy to remember and very efficient. So pause the video if you want to find the move yourselves and then compare with the solution. But now I'm going to show the move. The move is Queen c4. Why? Well, this move is very practical from the human perspective because we are directly attacking the rook and at the same time threatening to give a discovery check. And this is very useful because we can use discovery check to surprise and to make the defense harder. And of course, a direct threat also helps us to force the moves on the other side. So both threats are very good to force black into play into moves that we already studied before. So now black to move. Black to move, let's start with the king. Both moves by the king and the rook are possible, although the human defense that I recommend is to keep the rook on the third rank and go to f6. Just remember f6 because we are not going to be the farther away from the situation, and this is a key square to increase the difficulty for the attacking side. But now let's first see what happens if the king moves. If the king moves, the only possible move is to protect the rook, of course, and then we give a check. The king needs to go to a7, and we reach this position where the black pieces are cut into a border of the board. So now it's white to move. If it was black to move, probably it would be easier. But now it's white to move. And here we need to remember also another good technique, that it's based on having our queen in a free diagonal, so not blocked by our own king. So as we want to keep it the same way and having black pieces cut, the right square is b3, because we keep the queen in an open diagonal while keeping black pieces cut on the last rank. So now it's black to move again. Black to move again, and let's start by seeing what happens if the king moves, because it's the easiest one. If the king moves, we immediately reach with our king, forcing again another move from black. If the king protects the rook, let's see, for example, if it protects the rook like this, we just give a check, the king moves away, and we grab the rook. So the king can't move again, so we need to move the rook. Of course, there are some simple situations, like for example, if the rook stays on the same file, then we give a check, and then we'll find a fork. And if the rook stays near the king, we have this key move where we are now threatening a checkmate. And if the rook moves away, it will be very easy to catch it. Let's see, for example, if it gives a check, then we approach the king again, and now we are threatening lots of checkmates. So if the rook gives another check, we just move again our king, and it's impossible to avoid checkmate. So when we reach here, it will be basically over. So the rook can move sideways, of course. These are covered. Let's see what happens if moved here. Well, a direct fork is possible. And if it goes farther away, also we will find an easy fork very fast. The same goes to the other dark square. Okay, and so finally, if the rook moves to a white light square, then we need to also um, learn the way to approach the rook. First, we give a lateral check. Now the king can't move up. It can't move up because otherwise we just fork the rook. Okay, so the king needs to stay on the same rank. And now we give another check, and now notice why this check is faster. It's a diagonal check again, but we have these key squares that all of them connect with the rook, and they simply cut the king anywhere he goes. We will fork it. So for example, here we fork it here. Okay, if it comes up, like for example here, then we have this fork. If it goes to the corner, we have another fork. So when we reach this position, because the enemy king has moved here, we simply grab the rook or give a checkmate, so it's very easy. So coming back here, the position where we move the queen to stay on the same diagonal, only possibility for a more intelligent escape is to move the rook. Let's see what happens in the same file. Well, here we already saw that it will be fast to grab the enemy king. Okay, so this doesn't work. Let's see what happens if it goes down here. Well, another fork is coming. Okay, let's go back. And so the rook needs to stay on the same rank, but okay, on the same rank we are already controlling several squares. Let's see the easiest one. Okay, direct fork next. And now two more complicated ones. Let's see also and learn a bit more of these techniques. Let's see what happens if it goes the further away. Then we give this check. The king normally moves here. Otherwise, if it goes down, I'll just give a fork. Okay, so the king moves here, and now also again another position. Try to pause the video and find the best move for white. Okay, I hope you have found it. The best move is also an important technique we need to remember. The more we remember these techniques, the easiest will be to find them during the practical game. And the move is queen queen f8. Why? Because we are threatening checkmate and attacking the rook. So we always try to find double threats when we don't find a direct fork. And here it's impossible for black to escape, because if it moves the king, of course we will take the rook, and so the rook needs to move. But as we are threatening checkmates, the rook needs to go and do something about it. So let's see, for example, a check. We just move the king up, and again we are threatening checkmate, so black needs to do something. If it moves the king, then very easily we have a fork, so it can't be done. And if the king moves the other way, well, even better, we have a direct checkmate. So not possible to move the king. The rook now can't give a direct check because we are controlling the square. So it's game over for black. If the rook wants to avoid or delay the checkmate, it can't be done because we have checkmate on the other side of the board. So it's impossible for black to escape. So let's go back a bit, remembering this key move, okay? Threatening checkmate and threatening the rook is the key. So let's go back, and the rook goes to the other hard square. And again, if you want, can pause the video and try to find the best move for white. Again, this is why we are studying the human escape. It's good for the rook side and good for the queen side to know these things. Basically, black stays with the rook in the third rank, making it harder for the queen side. And the thing is to remember what are the squares harder to find. Well, I hope you have already found it, and the move is queen e3. Why? Because we are threatening, and again, the double threats are killing the other side, and then we have this threat of forking the rook. So we have a discovered check and a possible fork. It's very easy to understand if the rook moves to the better position, we simply reach a diagonal and it's over. So what happens if the rook gives check? Well, very easily we move the king, and it's no way to if the king goes here, I have checkmate, so the king needs to go back, okay, and anywhere he goes I will reach it. For example, if it goes here and here, checkmate, and if it goes here, we simply check. It needs to go back, and then we have a fork over here, and it's game over. So coming back here, the best defense is to go to f6 or h6, and either way I need to find the best solutions. Or if I go to h6, just remember this important technique: check, the king moves, and the double threat of the mate and grabbing the rook. So let's go back a bit. We need to go back to this. Let's see. Okay, let's move here and here. Okay, let's come here, and we saw that if we move the king, we already are able to win. So, but now black to move again. Let's see what happens if it moves the rook. First, the human move, it's again rook f6, so we'll leave this to the end. Now let's see what happens if the rook approaches and stays on the same file. Then we check, and it will be very easy to grab the rook. So no, not important, not easy for black. Here we grab it with discover check, and then we grab the rook or give a checkmate. And here the same thing, okay, check, and we grab the rook. So if the rook stays on the same file, okay, this one I haven't saw yet, so we just give a discover check and grab the rook. And the last one on the same file, here we give a check, the king moves, and then we have a fork. So the rook needs to stay on the same rank. Let's go over here. It's easy to find the fork, okay? And before we go to the best defense, let's see what happens over here. We give a discover check, the king needs to move, and then we have a simple fork in several ways if it goes. For example, here I can give the check, and just remember what we saw before, that the key squares are covering a possible fork. Let's see just one. If it goes here, it's a direct fork. So when we reach this position, we already saw how to win against the king move, and the rook and only has one good move, and it's a recommended one. It's rook f6. And again, if you want, this will happen a lot in this video. That's why I think this video is one of the most important to acquire new techniques, uh, and a very practical video to apply during our games if you reach these positions. It's white to move. Try to find it, and the move is another not natural move, queen c3. Queen c3, and basically we are keeping the threats of the discovered check and grabbing the rook. So again, a double threat. And now we are reaching the end of our video. Uh, Black needs to move, but if it moves the king, we simply take the rook. So we need to analyze what happens if the rook moves. And for a starter, like before, the best move for black, in my perspective, is to play rook h6. Okay, but we will have more possibilities. But basically, we need to remember, let's keep the rook on the third rank as far as possible. Now let's see what happens if it stays on the same file. Let's go, for example, here. Then we give a discover check. The king needs to move away, otherwise it will be a fast checkmate. And then we move the queen to a diagonal position, okay? Where the black king moves, I can grab the possibilities, check, and we will have a fork. If the king moves, for example, over here or over here, I have a fork over here. Let's see, for example, here, it's a simple fork. And finally, if the king moves, uh, just wait a minute, I am a bit lost at the moment, okay. And if the king moves to the corner, very easily we know that we approach the king and it will be very fast checkmate. Otherwise, we also can give a check, but I think this is the fastest, approaching our king and then delivering a checkmate. So, not possible for black. The same goes when the rook moves here. Also a difficult position. We give a check and then we place our queen in a diagonal, okay, and discovering checks will be showing up and forks and so on. So we have double threats, discover check and a fork. So if the rook moves to the best place, and we have again a diagonal. What can else? If it moves here, then we give a check and very easily we'll grab the rook. Okay. Another possibility is over here, staying on the same rank, but now we have a fork, and same goes to the others that we'll go and see. We will always have a fork. Otherwise, we will checkmate the king. So I think it's better to give away the rook and a direct fork over here. If it stays on the same row, let's start by this one. Well, this is very simple. We approach the king, attacking the rook, and there's nothing black can do to avoid losing the rook. The other side, I can fork the rook directly with the queen, and then we grab the rook. And finally, uh, if we go here, it will be also easy to find a fork to win the game. So last but not the least, we also have h6. So the best defense are more or less these ones. We can go here, here, or here. So check, the king moves, and you have a fork. Okay, but well, now coming to the conclusion, probably the two best are these ones. Okay, so we reached the end of our lesson for today, and we have seen that with a bit effort we can create practical problems for the other side, and with the attacking side, this is the hardest technique to master. So coming back just for a quick review, we place black in the zugzwang position. Let's see the Z on the side. The king moves for a human escape. We attack the rook, and the best position for the rook is to keep it on the third rank. Now we need to find this human move of double threatening the rook and the king. We saw many solutions for the black pieces, but this is the best because white needs to find this one, keeping the double threat. Now probably this is even better than the h6, of course. So we need to remember the technique is to force the king and then place our queen in a diagonal position. So where the rook comes here and we reach the diagonal position. So basically, coming back for the start, the woman perspective it's harder in a practical point of view. I hope you have enjoyed and hope to see you in another lessons. See you and have great games.